Yes, but I want some reciprocation. Okay. Yes, something is happening. Okay, got you. Yes. Hare Krishna. Very good. So, how long are we going for?
1 hour.
1 hour. Okay. Thank you very much. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyanandana Salakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yeah. Time. 1 minute. Time. Okay. So we're reading from the Bhagavad-gita As It Is, 4th chapter, text 19. Yasya sarve samārambhāḥ kāma-saṅkalpa-varjitāḥ jñānāgni-dagdha-karmāṇaṁ āhuḥ paṇḍitam budhāḥ. Yasya, one whose, sarve, all sorts of, samārambhāḥ, attempts, kāma, based on desire for sense gratification, saṅkalpa, determination, varjitāḥ, are devoid of, jñāna, of perfect knowledge, agni, by the fire, dagdha, burned, karmāṇam, whose work, tam, him, āhuḥ, declare, paṇḍitam, learned, Buddha, those who know, one who is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. Purport. Only a person in full knowledge can understand the activities of a person in Krishna consciousness. Because the person in Krishna consciousness is devoid of all kinds of sense gratificatory propensities, it is to be understood that he has burned up the reactions of his work by perfect knowledge of his constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's actually learned, who has attained to such perfection of knowledge. Development of this knowledge of eternal servitorship to the Lord is compared to fire. Such a fire, once kindled, can burn up all kinds of reactions to work. Yes, so the perfect state of Krishna consciousness, the state where personal enjoyment has become secondary to the enjoyment of Krishna, where one just fully is focused on service to Krishna, satisfying Krishna, and all the other things are just what to say. That comes also automatically because we are always relating to Krishna, because we can never be disconnected from Krishna for a moment, but we can relate to Krishna's external energy or to Krishna's internal energy, which means Krishna himself. When we are relating to Krishna himself, there will be lasting happiness. And when we are relating to Krishna's external energy, then we'll face happiness and distress. So here we're seeing a person who is fully understood that actually we're always connected with Krishna, and who therefore always lives in relationship with Krishna and always sees every moment like that, and therefore sees behind the external forms of the material energy, and sees Krishna behind everything. So Srimad Bhagavatam is going through a lot of trouble to show us how Krishna is behind the material energy. We are looking at the creation. We are looking also in the Bhagavad-gita at how the material elements are existing. Bhumirapo nalo vayu kamana buddhirivacha ahankaram ityame bina prakriti astada. These 8 separated energies of Krishna: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So these 8 energies, they are the building blocks of everything that we are dealing with in this material world. Our bodies are made of these 8 energies, and everything around us is made of these 8 energies. And these are Krishna's separated energies. And then, of course, there's Krishna himself. So, just like a story I remember from Lilamrita, and which I always liked, was that Hayagriva in 1966, when Prabhupada only had a small storefront. At that time, once they all went to the country ashram of Dr. Misra, and they stayed there. And these were New Yorkers, right? People that were just always in the city. They were always accustomed to city life, and suddenly they were out in nature. 1 minute, yeah. So, and they were out in nature, and Hayagriva was sleeping the night outside. So for him to spend the night in open air was something extraordinary. As he was sleeping outside, he saw the stars, and early in the morning, the sun came up, and there were some clouds in the sky. So the red of the sun reflected on the clouds, and Hayagriva was a bit of a poet. So he said, like a painter from his palettes made streaks of red in the morning sky, right? And so he spoke to Prabhupada how amazing it was, and how it was just like an artist who had painted the sky. And Prabhupada said, yes. Prabhupada said, yes, there's a very beautiful painting. He said, but more important than the painting is the painter, right? Because he is the one who is ultimately, who's ultimately has that beauty within him. The beauty of the painting is only a reflection of the beauty of the painter. So in this way, and therefore, the painter is more important than the painting. And so Srila Prabhupada was more interested in Krishna than in the beauty of the sky. And he pointed like that. Yeah, so this is something, and especially in the spiritual sense, that is true. Maybe in the material world, well, you know, I remember once I was in a football match, and they put me on the left wing, whereas, okay, uh, that's not my regular thing. I'm not left-handed or left-footed. I am rather, uh, but I was on the left wing. So I had to shoot the ball with my left foot, and I did. And somehow or other, I tried from a great distance. I saw the keeper was far out of his goal, and I tried, and the ball went right over him in the goal. How it happened, I don't know. It happened somehow or other. Uh, it it was an accident, you could say. Uh, so in the material world, sometimes when we create something, it just turns out really nice, and we ourselves are surprised that it happened. Right? I mean, did I make this? How is it possible? Uh, that could happen in the material world, but that doesn't happen to Krishna. Krishna is not like, oh, it worked. No, Krishna is in control. Right? We are not in control. So therefore, sometimes we think we're in control, uh, and uh, sometimes things are done quite easily, and other times we struggle tremendously. And sometimes something that we're not even good at, it just works out. Mm. But Krishna doesn't have these issues. He's capable, fully capable. Um, Whatever he desires will manifest perfectly. Um, Therefore, if we see any perfection in Krishna's creation, then we should know that this perfection has its roots in Krishna. And therefore, we always look at Krishna. Um, uh, Another example is given. It's like in temples, people put their shoes outside. And when you are a regular visitor to a temple and you are there with the same people, after a while, you know whose shoes are whose, right? So you're seeing, oh, so and so is already there. And you see the shoes. So by the shoes, we can tell who is there, right? So in this way, um, we can we see Krishna. We see Krishna by his shoes. We see Krishna by all the arrangements that he makes. And in this way, although we're looking at the material world, we always see Krishna behind it, how he is arranging it, how his nature is present within it. Uh, uh, I also give the example of a car or a house. Same thing, actually. If you look at today, we do a house. I often speak about the car, so let's speak about the house. A house has a front door and a back door, right? A house has like, we also have a front door and we also have a back door. Um, a house has windows to look. We also have windows, and we can look, right? Uh, a house also uh, has places where you store things, just like we have. Uh, in a house, there is like electric wires, which is like a nerve system, and there are also veins, right, pipes, etc. So if you really look at it, the house is somehow or other styled after the human body. Yeah. It's very interesting how the way that the house is made up is it provides for the human body, but it also relates to the human body, and it's even designed after the human body. The same you can say for a car. Huh? Same. Again, looks like the human body. So the creation tells something about the creator. And this is the point. To see Krishna everywhere and at every moment, not just philosophically, but to see Krishna in a very practical way behind everything. Yes. Not that somewhere far away behind everything in the spiritual world there is Krishna, and he lives there in his eternal abode. No. Krishna is here. Krishna is here now. All this energy now is telling us about Krishna. So everyone is telling us about Krishna. If you think Krishna is far away in the spiritual world, then Krishna also will be far away in our life. Then we have our life here, and so many things are going on here. Oh, yes, and Krishna is also there, far away in the spiritual world. But I'm very busy here, actually. I don't have much time for Krishna far away in the spiritual world. I don't know. Krishna seems so far from my life. That's why Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita go through quite a concerted effort to make us see Krishna right here in our present environment. And that is our natural way to remember Krishna. So in this way, when we see everything connected with Krishna, then we can also remember the purpose of Krishna. Okay, Amita Krishna is not muted. Could Amita Krishna does? Yes, thank you. So, yeah, like this, we could somehow or other be very naturally Krishna conscious. That is my point. How Krishna consciousness, as Prabhupada says, is not an artificial imposition of the mind, but rather that we recognize Krishna everywhere. You see, everything is connected with Krishna. And then, so we see everything as Krishna's energy. And then the next thing is we have to see what is Krishna's purpose? What is Krishna's aim? What is his objective? And when we begin to see what is Krishna doing, one can say Krishna is dealing with the conditioned souls, and with the conditioned souls, Krishna is trying to bring them to a point of becoming humble. Somehow or other, the material world is designed to make us humble. That is the idea. We might not have thought of it like that. We could have thought of many things if we would have asked, well, what is the purpose of the material world? The purpose of the material world is to develop humility so that we can come to the point of turning to Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita it says, "Manmana bhavamat bhakto majajimam namaskaru mameva isyaisi satyante bhakti jana priyosi me." That we can become a devotee of Krishna, and by bowing down before Krishna, by giving up our own independence before Krishna, our independent agenda, and to look at Krishna's agenda. Giving up our independence means, what is Krishna's agenda? And then we look at Krishna's agenda. And that is the next thing, right? Not only seeing Krishna's energy, but now what is Krishna's purpose with this energy? And then, so as I say, for the conditioned souls, the first purpose is to bring us to the point where we're ready to bow down to him. So bowing down to him is our well, that requires well, once I had a dream, and in this dream I offered obeisances to my spiritual master with a lot of devotion, and then he came before me and said, "You should always offer your obeisances like this." And I was thinking, well, yeah, I should. It's not like that, right? Yes. When we offer our obeisances, we are bowing down. The first time I ever bowed down, I was very self-conscious about it. I had a feeling that everyone in the room, although there were others who were bowing down, I was quite convinced that everybody somehow or other knew that I was doing it for the first time. And that is why I felt very self-conscious about it, right? I knew all these people are bowing down, but I was convinced that all these people know that I'm doing this now for the first time. So I felt extremely self-conscious. Anyway, somehow or other, I did it and carried on. Obviously, this bowing down and placing the body on the ground or the head on the ground has a purpose to not just bow the body, but to actually bow our will. It is about bowing our will. And this whole physical exercise of going down is kind of helping us to mentally bowing down our will and say, not what I want, but what you want, O Krishna. Yes. So that is there. So when we see the energy of Krishna and we see it connected with Krishna, now the next thing is, what is the purpose of Krishna? And the purpose of Krishna is to increase the love in every living being. So all the arrangements that Krishna makes are there to increase the love in the living beings. So that is Krishna consciousness. Not only to see Krishna as the origin of everything, not just to see Krishna as the controller of everything, not just to see Krishna as the Lord and Master of everything, but to see Krishna as the reservoir of love. The Bhagavad-gita says, Aham sarvasya prabhava mata sarvam pavartati iti mata bhajantemam buddha-bhava samanvitaha. That I am the source of all the material and the spiritual worlds. The wise, who knows this perfectly, worships me with love. So, with love, right? I mean, why would we worship him with love if we know that he's the origin of everything? only if we understand that he is also the origin of love himself, and that that is the purpose of everything, and to increase that love in all living beings, whether we are here in the material world or in the spiritual world. That is mature Krishna consciousness. Because a mature Krishna conscious person is seeing Krishna everywhere and is at the same time also full of love, the well-wisher of everyone. He is always thinking, Suridam Sarvadehinam, just like Krishna, to benefit every living being. And in that way, the entire world is uplifted by such a person. So not only is a Krishna conscious person free from the reactions of work, but a Krishna conscious person is also directly immersed in the transcendental ocean of ecstasy, of bliss. So yeah, therefore, a Krishna conscious person is inspired and is somehow or other and inspired to live for the welfare of others. So that is taking it a step further. Here in this particular verse, the focus is on one is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. Yes, but full knowledge is not everything yet. You know, we also need anand, sat sit anand. We need these three aspects: eternity, full knowledge, and to be full of bliss. So the fully blissful part is not enough to be free from karmic reactions, but karmic reactions are simply there to make us humble, to bring us to the point where we bow down. Yes. But we're going beyond that now and talking about the positive experience, the loving exchange, the very intimate, personal, loving exchange with Krishna. And that is more on our mind than to become free from the reactions of karma. That would be a lower motivation. Trying to become free from the reactions of karma would be not a very, what shall I say, not a very inspiring motivation, because that's a negative motivation. To become free from suffering, to become free from trouble, that is not truly Krishna consciousness. Real Krishna consciousness means to be actually attached to Krishna because he is the most wonderful. And that, of course, in the Bhagavatam, if we go to the 10th canto, to the descriptions of the residents of Vrindavan, that is what we see. And then we hear how all these residents of Vrindavan had their families, they had their children, but all of them, they looked at Krishna, and all of them thought, oh, if only Krishna would have been our son. Imagine, more so than their own children. They loved their children, it wasn't that, but they loved Krishna more. And that is, of course, the most amazing thing. So yes, loving Krishna the most, and Krishna So they all desired that if only Krishna would have been our son. So then Krishna made arrangements that Lord Brahma stole the calves and cowherd boys, and Lord Brahma left for just a moment of his time. But 1 moment of his time was 1 year of our time. And so for 1 year, Krishna took the place of all these cows and calves. And then all the parents, for 1 year, actually, Krishna was their son. And they were very, very ecstatic. Right? It was just fathers were embracing their sons, and and the cows were just mad about their calves. Although they even had new calves, they didn't care about the new calves. They just cared about those calves because they were Krishna. So yes, we see the residents of Vrindavan who there's nothing more wonderful in their life than Krishna. And that is real Krishna consciousness. Okay, I'm going to ask you to start typing some questions. It's like, this is, we're talking Bhagavad-gita. So see if we have something on the topic. And you put it in the chat box, or if somebody has a live question, you're also very welcome. Let's see.
There are already 2 or 3 questions in the chat box.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Yes.
Yeah. I have one question. You mentioned, right, that you have to see the Krishna in everybody and everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that easy to see Krishna in everybody.
Very easy. Mm-hmm.
For me. So how can you help me on, Krishna?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, everyone is every living being is a part and parcel of Krishna. Just in Bhagavad Gita, it says, Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasastra nindriyani prakriti-stani karsati. So every living being is my amsa, my part and parcel, infinite, small part and parcel of me. So even all living beings are they all get their energy of Krishna, and we all get our talents of Krishna, right? And we get our forms of Krishna, and we are just trying to enjoy in this material world in imitation of Krishna. Yeah? So you see all these people, and it is acting in imitation of Krishna. See, they're playing Radha and Krishna, or whatever else. They're playing with Krishna's energy. So we see that whatever is in this world has its origin in the spiritual world. So we just have to learn to see behind things. That is the thing. You always have to see behind. Even Kamsa was a devotee in the end. Because Kamsa, he was, of course, a big demon, right? But then even Kamsa had a moment of doubt. Even Kamsa, one time Kamsa was sitting on his throne and he said, what will he do to me? Nothing. I have very powerful allies. Casey will surely protect me. Just then, a messenger came, Your Majesty, a calamity, terrible news, Your Majesty. Casey, no. Yes, Casey has been killed. No, he is too powerful. What should I do? Maybe. Oh, what can I do? Maybe I should just surrender unto him. No, how can I do that? What would people say? Me, Kamsa, surrender? No. Then let me go to Vrindavan and torture the residents. No, but how can I do that? when I'm afraid to go, when I'm too afraid to go out of the palace. So in this way, Kamsa even had a moment of doubt. Even he thought, maybe I should surrender to Krishna. Everyone has a natural connection with Krishna. And actually, it is natural to be a devotee. Natural. Yeah? Sooner or later, it is natural to bow down. Our pride is false pride. For a short while, for 2 weeks actually, I was a Gurukul teacher. And there was the son of the temple president, and he was proud. So there was a tree that had fallen over, and he climbed on that tree, and stood above us. And then he said, I am the greatest. And we all told him, get down. You know what I mean? I mean, everyone thought it was ridiculous. Yeah. But it was already there in this child. It was just maybe 6 or 7. And he was very proud. Yes. So, but we can all see. We see so many proud people. And we know that actually they're not in control. You've been very ill not so long ago, I know that. I've also been quite ill not so long ago. And just like that, boom. Yeah? And there we are, reduced. Yeah? We have no power. So we are so proud. And then, no power. So Krishna is in control. Nobody else. So those who are so proud, they're in illusion. And time will make them more humble. So in this way, just as we are becoming more humble, when we realize that we are not in control. So in this way, we can see actually everyone is a devotee of Krishna. Some know it and others don't. And all this energy, it's only Krishna's energy. Where does the light of the sun come from? Where does oceans of water, where it's all coming from? Krishna only, nowhere else. Everywhere is Krishna, all his energy. And everything is meant for his service. So our job is to take the things from this world and use them for Krishna. It's very simple and very nice, sublime also. Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, then we have some on the chat box also. Where does it begin? How to see Krishna in the negativity of this world, in the ugly things of demonic actions. It's like when we see demonic activities, then it is as if we look in the mirror and we see the demoniac tendencies in ourselves. And maybe we've turned away from them, but the shadow of these previous demoniac activities are still there in us. So in that way, we can appreciate that we are still, then we can still, sorry, I'm reading something, got distracted. So we can still in this way see remnants of a demoniac nature in ourselves. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur describes all these demons and approaches it from a psychological angle and sees them as prototypes and says that each of these demons that Krishna is killing is representing a particular demoniac aspect. For example, Aghasura is very cold-blooded and ruthless. That's why with his mystic power, he chooses to take the form of a snake. Then there is Putana, and she is the false guru. No? The false guru, because the mother is the first guru, so she's acting as the false guru. So when we see this negativity and this ugliness in the world, then we see this is the disease of the material world. And we can see that this disease is also in us. So we're not surprised. So we're seeing that we need to become purified of it. And we see that Krishna gives people, difficulties so that we give up our stubborn materialistic tendencies. Because we're very stubborn about our material pursuits. And therefore, Krishna uses some strong situations to make us, to change us. So we can see Krishna in there. We can, okay, let's look. Whoever serves the gross materialist today, immersed in the enjoyment of the senses, will see the gates of hell open just for associating with this kind of people. So my question is, how can we talk about Krishna to materialists of impersonalists or impersonalists if we have these reactions? No, we must understand this properly. It says that whoever serves the gross materialists totally immersed in the enjoyment of the senses. So that's a gross materialist who is forgetting everything about the higher purpose of life. Such a person gets caught up in a network of sinful activities because it is very difficult to satisfy the senses, and one will need a stronger doses, right? Each time, a stronger impulse. So therefore, it naturally leads to sinful activities. So they'll get caught up in a network of sinful activities, and there will be such reactions. But we can somehow or other, we can, from a Krishna conscious point of view, we can connect with such people and try to help them and uplift them. And in that way, we can associate. And of course, in the course of everyday routine, we cannot always try to preach to everyone at work or in other situations. But if we can give people some mercy, that will be nice. That will be nice. Okay. Whenever the opportunities arise, we will. In Jaiva Dharma, chapter 16, it is said, it is natural to experience some suffering when one is controlled by the desire of the agent. However, if that suffering brings pleasure in the end, it's not true suffering. How can you call it suffering? Does that mean that every fallen jiva in the universe will eventually get tired of suffering and get an opportunity by the mercy of Krishna to go back to Godhead? Yes. Every living being will ultimately get frustrated with the material energy and get attracted to Krishna and Krishna's devotees. Yes, but it may take a while. But yes, that's there. Is our nature Satsidananda, or do we get this when the Ladini Shakti is coming to us? Well, our nature is constitutionally Satsidananda, but that Satsidananda is only manifested when we are relating to the internal energy. And Ladini is part of that internal energy. And as long as we relate just to the external energy, then Satsidananda will not manifest in us. Then we become covered. So yes, you are also right. I love the job today. And then you mentioned the material just providing arrangement for us to become humble. I'll be very assured. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Yes, losing jobs, it is difficult now. But maybe we can try and make some money of prasadam, of books, or something like that. Okay, Mark appreciates the point, and the purpose of the material world is to be humble and for us to come to Krishna. It's like be humble or become humbled. Sometimes I definitely experienced in my something I definitely experienced in my time here. Yeah, I think we're all experiencing a bit of that. Yeah. How to see Krishna's arrangement and what to think when we saw some devotees as authorities and examples for us in our spiritual life, but they end up as not so good examples. Yeah, what to do? Then we just see, well, they're not ready yet, Maybe they prematurely took up a role of authority, but it was still external. They had not sufficiently, they knew the knowledge theoretically, but they hadn't fully embraced it in the heart, and therefore they may have got into trouble and not be able to continue to act like an authority. No big drama. Just understand, yes, they need some more time. The fruits will become ripe, but they need some more time. Is there a limit to humility? I don't think so. I don't think so. No, I don't think there's a limit to humility. In my case, there's a limit to my humility. That's another matter. You know what I mean? It's like, that's another matter, It's a struggle to become really humble. But okay, time does do its work. That's for sure, Time does humble us. What is this one? Is book distribution more important or feeding hungry people more important? Well, when people are starving around us, right, then we have to feed them. We could give them a book, but they may just fall over from starvation. So in that case, we would have to feed them first. But if we just feed them, that's also not enough. So it's the combination of the two that is needed. The world needs both. We need to feed the hungry people and also the spiritually starving people. We need to feed them a lot of prasadam, and the books also need to be there so that then they can go carry on with transcendental knowledge. So both are needed. Does humility affect our piety, or does our piety affect humility? Someone who is pious from a previous life certainly has maybe a more of an inclination towards spiritual behavior and may therefore also be more humble. Someone who is very humble increases his piety. So the relationship between humility and piety is there. Piety, previous piety helps humility today. Current humility also helps us to develop piety in the present. So, like that. If we are forced to be in an environment full of materialistic people, yet we want to deepen our bhakti, is alienating ourselves from others, colleagues, classmates, etc., worth it? Well, what can we do, you know? I mean, we can be friends, but only so far, right? What to do? They do some things that we don't do. We don't drink, we don't engage in illicit sex and all these things. So with Christmas, we always experience the difficulty to be with our family members at the dinner table. It's a very difficult thing, you know. It's very nice. We love them, but it is intense to sit there at the table with all the various foodstuffs and with our little vegetarian plate, you know. And amidst all of this, it's not, and for most devotees, it's not our favorite moment of the year, right? Some may do so, you know, out of love for family members, but it's definitely a moment that we experience the gap, and everybody else also experience it, right? We just can't share that, you know. We can't share that with people. That's not possible. Mm-hmm. So what to do? Therefore, my family is now. Well, my parents have expired long ago. So, but in the past, I would avoid that particular evening. I would go at some other time, right? I would just, you know, go a little bit different time, either earlier in the day or the next day, something, you know, to show that I cared, but I wouldn't come for that particular dinner. Sometimes our attempts at being humble results in exploitation with negative the effects our Krishna consciousness. How can you develop humility while guarding against being exploited? You know, there are three categories of devotees: the Kanista Adhikari, the Madhyama Adhikari, the Uttama Adhikari. So the Uttama Adhikari doesn't need to guard himself. The Uttama Adhikari doesn't worry about being exploited. The Uttama Adhikari can just, you know, whatever people do, the Uttama Adhikari is fixed in Krishna consciousness. But the Madhyam and the Kanista need to protect themselves. They need to protect their Krishna consciousness. They need to make sure they are in good association. They need to be careful that they are not being exploited and so on. So that is there. Yes, we need to, since we are not Uttama Adhikaris, we need to take some humility is not our only focus, you know. There are many other things also. Humility is one thing, but also we need to protect our spiritual life. And therefore, we are placing ourselves in positive association and all these things. So not that we let anyone and everyone just exploit us. One must also know when to say no. We heard many times that when we see a bad quality in others, we act as a mirror. Sometimes certain behavior in others which annoys us is not to be found in us at all. What then? And what about when our senior devotees or a guru makes an attempt to correct us because of some flaws in a character? As they're acting, are they acting as a mirror as well? Meaning, do they have the same flaws as resonates in them and then are capable to see them? So sorry for the somehow challenging question. Well, let's begin with question number one. I think all of us in the material world, we are all of the same nature, and we all have similar experiences in this world, but we are all in an individual stage of development. Right? So therefore we can recognize things in each other and we can understand each other. But doesn't always mean that we are going through exactly the same experiences at the moment. Just like, you know, elder or people who are somewhat elder, they are full of wisdom, right? And what is that wisdom? Yeah, they've also had all these feelings. They've also done a few crazy things and so on. And they have kind of learned that some things didn't work, this, that. So they come to a point of what we call wisdom. So then such people can guide younger people who are not experienced and who step into all kinds of situations, maybe full of enthusiasm, take on a huge work without considering that they may become crushed by too much pressure, right? And the elder person say, yeah, well, you can't do that. You got to also look after yourself. Yes. So elder, more experienced people can guide younger people, right, from previous experience. In the same way, in spiritual life, someone who may become liberated from material entanglement doesn't forget how material entanglement works and also doesn't forget personal experience. So they can still speak from experience, but they are no longer part of that. They've outgrown that. But in this way, they can sometimes guide in a very personal way that understands the involvement of the situation without and give therefore very realized advice, but doesn't mean that they still have to go through it themselves at present, still affected by it. Spiritual master is supposed to be it's supposed to be up to the definition of the verse that we are looking at. I'm trying to open it. Come on. Open. Yeah, the verse says, one who is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification, he is said by the sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. So he's no longer going through these things. As a spiritual master, you have to deal with people who have desires that you don't have. They have all kinds of desires, which we don't have. But doesn't mean that we can't understand, because We've also had desires in the past. Okay, the hour has gone by. There are more questions, but any tips for trying to remember, recall more details of Krishna's pastimes? Just listen to them in audiobooks, read about them, hear about them, then you'll know. Is there a relationship between being humble or not being humble and karma from our previous lives? Yes, of course. We bring something with us from previous lives. If we weren't so humble in our last life, we start out with being afflicted by that from last life. Yes, so it's going over hours. Okay, the hour is over. So thank you very much. We meet you all again. Franca, I will message you now or call you now. If I can call you after this, I'll call you on that number. Yes.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. It was very nice, a very interactive lecture. Thank you for answering all those questions. And thanks to all of you devotees who have joined us from all over Europe and elsewhere. Thank you for asking these wonderful and relevant questions. I can see that Madana Lasa has, among others, answered a question. She will be giving the lecture next week, so tune in for that. And just a small request at the end, a congregational member of ours, Mitu Banik, is in hospital in Italy. She is still quite young, but is undergoing a severe health crisis. And please, if you have some seconds or minutes, pray for her that she can regain her health again. Thank you very much. And we are very glad that you have joined us, Maharaj, and we would be very glad to see you very soon again. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.